Hey guys, it's Street Cat Art here. I've been meaning to make this video for a while, but I've just been super busy. But I want to take the chance at the beginning of it to say I do have prints for sale on Etsy. My studio, I'll link below, but it's a Street Cat studio. And I'm going to use the piece that you see here and the time lapse for it to kind of go over how I find inspiration and how I apply it to a piece. And you'll get to see everything I import for references as well. But we're going to start first by opening up my reference folder here, and I have pieces saved for every time I had to look up something to draw it. We have a lot of my favorite artists. So like, for example, you see a lot of Shu Ishida. You're going to see a lot of that in here, but I also have a lot of anatomy photos, a lot of other people's art, photography that I liked, anything that kind of made me feel like I wanted to create is saved in this folder. And this is, this is just my tablet one. I also have a huge reference folder on my computer, and I have a huge reference folder on my phone. And then I wanted to go ahead and show, when you're going through that creativity block, how hard it can be to kind of get going. So I imported like my sketchbook pieces. I tried starting some animation pieces. This is just all the things that I was working on because I was going through this kind of creativity block, and it was not getting anywhere. And I think we're all guilty of feeling like every time we start a piece, it's nothing but crap. I think we've all felt that at some point in time. So I just wanted to give an example. I feel like I want to be a full transparency artist, okay? On how I go about learning things, on how much I struggle with things, on the ugly parts of the process that we don't typically share online. I want to be, completely transparent on that. And this, unfortunately, this is a Blood Plus piece that I was working on, and I was really happy with it for the amount of time that I spent on it. Unfortunately, at some point, I tried the little chromatic change thing on it on Procreate, and I guess I did not undo it because now it is stuck like this, which kind of sucks because it was on the main piece of art. But this is just examples of me being just as bad at starting things and being like, I hate everything I make. But, that's okay. We're going to talk about how we're going to work through that a little bit. So what I did is I opened up this piece, and before this started, I have 3 images that I screenshotted from a TikTok, actually, of someone's photography, and I hope you can see their names on there because I don't know who they were. It was a random one that popped up on my feed. And I want here to kind of destigmatize this idea of tracing things. I know that we as artists can be very critical of other people, like tracing some things, but we need to remember, especially people who are going to work towards like comics or mangas, those people use 3D models for things. They do not draw every background, every piece of paper, every desk, every bookshelf. They don't do that themselves. They have 3D models they trace. And so for me, I like to use tracing as a way to learn how to draw something. I do that a lot with my anatomy poses, but this is me using it with this traffic light train thing. So I go through, I trace it, and I go and I clean up the lines after the fact, but this allows me to see how these lines work together individually instead of like when I'm looking at that whole piece. This lets me break it down. Now, I chose this piece because we had railroad tracks that ran all right through our town, and so, that is what I used to get places. I'd walk around the railroad tracks until I reached where I needed to hop off the railroad tracks and get to where I was going. So I really, really liked this piece, and it fit very well with the characters in my story, this like snowy scene. Now, I did not use reference for my characters, or at least my characters' poses at this point in time. I just kind of had an idea. This is sort of a piece that's been in my head since I was a kid, that I didn't have the skill level to draw it. And I'm not saying like it's super skilled now. It's not a super amazing piece, but I am very happy with it because there was a point in time where I wouldn't have been able to draw this at all. And you can see me struggle a little bit with figuring out the head portions and everything like that. I'm still terribly bad at perspective. We need to do a bunch of studies, but it's fine. While this is going on, running in the background, I just want to talk about inspiration. So for me right now, back in March of 2024, I became obsessed with Sleep Token. And that has really helped my creative process with my story, because the songs, the lyrics, and the mood fits very much the feelings of my story, and also really helped me with Jasper, which really helped me flesh out the story, because Jasper's a main character and I had nothing for Jasper. So I started the story 5 years ago. It's kind of been something that's building over like my whole life, because I've always been fascinated with mythology, religion, the interactions of gods with people, and I've always been really fascinated with Strings of Fate and Split Souls and, you know, all of those things. So this is like been building for a long time. And it probably started when I was a teen watching anime. So there are definitely, you know, inspirations from Inuyasha, from like Nana, from just a bunch of different animes of like there's certain feelings. You know, go ahead and pick out feelings you want to represent for your pieces too. But Sleep Token, whenever I get into an art block, I do tend to listen to a lot of Sleep Token to get in to the headspace that I want to be in to create my works. I don't typically want to create very happy pieces. That's not what I'm going for. I do have the advantage that most of my artwork is based on a story, and that helps me a lot with trying to envision things. But even when I wasn't working on a story, you know, I would definitely go through my reference folder and pick out things, and I go through pieces and I pick individual things I like about them. So, you know, let's say you open up and you have Kellogg's Loops piece, and you're like, oh my God, I love this piece. Go and pick out the thing particularly that you love. So whether it's his use of like that blue, reddy, orange color combination, or it's the way that he draws faces, okay? And then go pick another piece, maybe not by Kellogg's Loops, maybe by someone else. And then pick one thing you like out of another piece that you really enjoyed. And then try and find a way. You can do it with multiple. It doesn't have to be 2, but I would definitely at least 2. You can go as many as you want. And pick pieces from that to work into your piece. And that way you can sit there, instead of thinking of like, okay, what the heck do I even want to make? You go like, okay, I want to make something that has this, this, and this. And now I just need to find a way to meld all those things together. And that will help a lot with finding inspiration and stuff like that. Or the motivation more so than anything, I feel like, is the problem. It's so hard to look at a blank sheet of paper or a blank canvas on the computer or Procreate or wherever you're making your art and figuring out where to start. So that is one of the things I do. Like I'll be on TikTok screenshotting everything. I think it really helps with inspiration if you know what the mood you want for a piece is. And I am very lucky in that regard, because I have one mood that I really like to portray in all of my pieces, I guess. It's in my story. It's, you know, like just who I am as a person, I guess. But I am very fond of, you know, those star-crossed lovers, those doomed lovers. I like those just missed moments. We were almost, but not quite. And so, like, you know, that this piece is a huge representation of that, because Jasper and Evelyn are a huge representation of almost but not quite. And you know, they're fated to be together, but they're not together. They won't be together. You know, the complications of that feeling of when two people love each other and the love just is not enough. So that makes it really easy for me to sort of, I know what the mood in my pieces are. I know what they want. But let's say I'm not working on a piece for a story. Let's say I'm working on individual illustrations that don't pertain to my story at all. So, for example, these pieces, they don't pertain to my story, and I wanted to capture a feeling in each of them, and that is a lot with my illustrative work, where I'm just trying to get a emotion or feeling out. And I don't, I'm not going to tell you what to feel in those pieces. I'm going to leave that up to each individual viewer's perspective. But I go into those pieces listening to certain music or with a certain quote in mind. I think the one that has like the shattered face, distractions from Sleep Token is a good one. And while we're on that topic, music, lyrics, poetry, quotes from books, I like to collect them all and use them if they give me a certain feeling. And so, like, in the beginning of my sketchbook, unfortunately, it's not as full as some of my other ones, but in this one, we've got a couple here. We've got carving past the surface into you, tearing me asunder beside you, and that's from Gods by Sleep Token. We've got even the gods would abandon the heavens to merely behold you, and that's another one from Sleep Token. I've got ones that are from TikTok that are like, I had no idea what I wanted, only that I wanted something, which is the worst kind of wanting. We've got some of my poetry, like we've got the morning light casts the remnants of heaven into the oceans between us, and the gods obscure our view. I awake orbiting infinity's grave, a deep slumber your voice calls me from. And then, that goes off into another one. There was a pain once so deep, it didn't escape any lifetime. Over and over it echoed into the void it had created, the splitting of a soul. Splintered shards of resentment crack at the passage of time. Those are some of my pieces, poetry pieces. There's things like Charles Bukowski's "We're here to laugh at the odds and live life so well. Death will tremble to take us." I have that tattooed on me. Death will tremble to take us. Things like that evoke emotion in me. I will write them down, save them somewhere to use as inspiration for pieces. And even though some of my poetry is in there and a lot of it's Sleep Token lyrics, you can see that I'm collecting things that fit a certain category, mood, feeling in there. And it's not limited to that. You can have all kinds of poetry or literature. It's whatever makes you feel something. The reason it's the way that it is because my story centers around gods and star-crossed lovers and an uprising and whatnot, so that's why that is the way it is. But I highly recommend, like, if you want to overcome, any kind of inspiration or creativity block, the biggest key to it is having a vast catalog of things to pull from. For example, you want to have as many things, like anytime you see anything, I don't care what it is. Even if you're outside, you're walking, I have a lot of reference photos of like flowers and stuff like that. Or I have a picture of a tree when it snowed a couple weeks ago, weeping willow that we have in our neighborhood. Take pictures, save quotes, save other artists' work, I'm not saying copy other artists. I'm not saying do an exact replica of that work. But if you like a piece, you want to have that somewhere that you can reference that later so you can really pick it apart and be like, I really like this because I like the detail in the outfits that they used. Or if you just need to kind of practice your skills, get better at stuff, it's okay to draw other people's stuff as long as you are not sitting there claiming that you came up with this whole thing yourself. I think that is the biggest thing for artists. I think most artists would agree. They would love to be someone's inspiration. They would love to inspire people, and they hope that their work does that. The real problem comes in when people want to do exact copies, but maybe change just the eyes or something like that. And then you're not giving that artist credit for how they inspired you, and you are not putting your own work into it. So an artist I really like to use when I'm doing like two characters interacting is Shilin. She's got her Velcro and Blackbird series on DeviantArt, with like independent illustrations, and there's something about the way she makes them interact and the perspective that she draws them at that I always find really really talented and really interesting to look at. And so the one piece that I drew, so this one, and this one is actually a redo of this piece, and this piece is from Shillin's work here. And it's just because I like so much, and that's not a great example. Like they have really, really interesting perspectives on some of those Velcro and Blackbird series that I'm going to go through all of them and try to work them in so that I can figure out and understand perspective a little better. The real difference comes from when you just pass things off as yours. You know what I mean? Or you don't change anything. You just do exact replica, like say, hey, look, I made this piece. And really, you just did a very, nice, like, tracing. It's not really tracing, let's say nice copy of it. And I feel like that's where the big difference is. Like, so that'll be my announcement here. I have no problem with anyone going through and using my art as reference or making, like almost replica, as long as, there is credit due there, okay? That, I feel like most artists feel that way. Because we also want our work to be appreciated just as much as you would like yours to be appreciated. But having a huge catalog is where that comes in. So you want to save all those things. And another thing I recommend in saving all of those things is writing a list of things that come to your head. So like I carry my sketchbook around with me everywhere, even as I'm not drawing in it currently because I'm trying to work on my digital art a little bit more. But I have a list of anytime a piece came into my head, I wrote that list. So, just to name off a couple, we have Annalise with her heart ripped out, and then it has, like, in parentheses, details, so I want white carnations, and, Annalise has white hair, so she's got white hair going to white carnations, but then there is blood speckled onto the white carnations, and then I even wrote down the reason I chose white carnations, and it's because of what they symbolize. We have, simple one, Jasper playing on stage. And I even put, I want, the description of the stage and the lighting. So like blue lighting, dark stage, particularly when he plays in the story. He is on the stage that's in the Club Ophidian, and it has this giant snake sculpture behind it. I have that written in there. We have a tree, the tree of Leviticus splitting open. We have, Evelyn and Leviticus in a cathedral, and then in parentheses it says they're different now, but she recognizes his song playing, so he's playing piano in the cathedral. Annalise bent over adjusting a thigh strap dagger, and I, even though those are so simple, they don't have a lot of detail in them, I know, because I have written this down, that those are things I want to draw. And so whenever I'm, I can't figure out, hey, I don't know what the heck I'm going to draw, I have a list here that tells me, hey, you have no ideas. Here are some ideas for you. But that's just this is kind of what I wanted to go over. I hope this helps someone find some inspiration. I know it can be really hard, but, let me know in the comments if this was helpful to you. Give it a like, subscribe if you're interested. I'm trying to post videos more frequently. I do post a lot of shorts from TikTok and stuff like that, but I also want to make other videos, so if you let me know in the comments like what you'd be interested in seeing, if you want any how-to videos, if you want any other information, just let me know and I will try and make it happen through my busy schedule. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.